Dustin Rhodes, welcome to WFAA.
Hey man, how are you?
Doing good.
Thanks for having me.
Sure. So we're here to talk about All In Texas next summer at Globe Life Field. And for the past 5 years, this whole run has kind of been billed as one last ride. Is it safe to say that ride is going to continue at least up to Globe Life Field?
It is funny that you say, it has been this one last ride that has lasted 5 years. I don't know how long it's going to continue, but I don't see any end in sight right now.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular you'd like to do at Globe Life Field? Anything in your mind?
Yeah, I have some goals in mind. It's a build to get there. So, I'm going to keep that kind of to myself. But I hope to be a huge part of All In Texas, July 12th. I think this is our first U.S. stadium show, which is going to be huge, Last 2 years, All In was in Wembley Stadium in London. First year, 80,000 people. Second year, almost 60. It's amazing. Our pay-per-views are on another level, really, to be honest with you. And every pay-per-view just shock and awes me, man. There's the amount of talent we have and the stuff that we do keeps them coming back, and that's what we want.
Yeah. I've been digging into some local wrestling history lately, and I found out, this is the first wrestling show at Globe Life Field, but this is actually not the first wrestling show at a baseball stadium in Arlington. Back in the late 60s, there were a couple that Fritz von Erich held, the Dallas territory. And something interesting that I found out, are you aware of this, that Dusty Rhodes actually wrestled in the semi-main event of the 68 Turnpike Stadium?
I am.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The Rhodes and the Von Erichs are synonymous with Texas. And I grew up watching the Von Erichs while my father was in Florida, becoming a big star. And that's what I grew up on, was Kevin, Kerry, the Fritz, just David. God, I loved World Class. And I actually got to wrestle there many times at the Sportatorium before they tore it down. I wish it was still standing. I would love to have a show there right now.
Sure. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I know you worked at the Sportatorium under USWA.
Yep.
Do you have any specific memories or moments that stand out to you working there?
Every one of them. I just loved it. I was young, so everything was an experience for me. And, the new eyes, seeing a young, natural Dustin Rhodes was very cool. But being young, you don't realize all these things until you get a little older and you have more of you're more grateful for things, and you look back, wow, I did that, I did this, my God, it's just an amazing career I've had. And it's continuing, and I'm in the best shape of my life at 215 pounds. I'm down to high school weight for the first time since high school. And it's crazy that you get in that mindset and you're passionate, you're going to make anything work, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Okay. How do you think, I know you're at the series of shows in Arlington. How do you think the Dallas crowd has evolved since the times of the Sportatorium? You think it's still...
I do.
Yeah.
Yes, with different eras and different generations of people. Their parents usually show the children, and then the children show their children. And that's how the wrestling business has been so wonderful for so many years. Yes, major changes. It's very different than the 70s and 80s, right? But the 80s are what I study. I love the 80s, man. That was the funnest time. Texan fans are incredibly loud and passionate about their pro wrestling, whether it be the Von Erichs, at the Sportatorium back in the 70s and 80s, or, WWE or All Elite Wrestling coming in, right, and doing that residency here in Dallas or in Arlington was a lot of fun. And it was easy for me because I get to drive home every night, being from Austin. But Texan fans, they come out. And they come out loud. They're very passionate about it, and we feed off of that energy.
How do you think if they have, it's very, watching old territories, it's interesting how different crowds have different things that they're into. Something that works in Dallas may not work in New
Right.
York or Chicago. Do you feel like crowds have become more homogenized, or do you still notice a difference in different regions?
I do notice a difference in certain states, right? Like if I go to New York City or Philadelphia, they love the bad guys, right? So it makes it a little extra hard, and you gotta put some thought into what you're doing. But as long as you have charisma as a good guy baby face, you're not gonna be dead in the water. But some kids, it gets to them, you know, and that's a terrible thing, man. It's just the wrestling business. They're going to like you or they're not going to like you, and it's very different up north and northeast than it is in like Texas or down south. They like it all down here. You know, you can do minimal and get these huge reactions, and up there you got to do so much to get the reactions. Very different.
Yeah. Talking about the Von Erichs, you're currently the ROH six-man champion with two of Kevin's kids.
Yep. Marshall and Ross.
Exactly. How are they? How do you like working with them?
I love it. They're very young, very hungry, right? So this is kind of a mentorship, right? Kevin said, you guys listen to Dustin, and that meant the world to me. But to have Kevin there with the kids as we won the Ring of Honor six-man world tag team titles it's beyond special. It's like my dad being there for me the first time I won a title or something, right? To see their dad in the ring with them, that had to feel amazing for them. And it felt amazing to me because I looked up to Kevin for so many years and been around him a long time. Tremendous athlete, tremendous man, a champion in his own mind, a legend, you know, in the Hall of Fame. Just his accolades are crazy. And to be out there and him to watch us, and I've listened to Kevin talk about old school, right? And I get it. And I am very old school. But I tell the kids today, without the old school, there is none of this new school. You have to learn from somewhere. And that's the ever-evolving business. And it's going to change in 10 years or 20 years from now. I don't know what to, but, you know, it is crazy the way it's grown. It's crazy to be in there with these young kids and mentoring them and guiding them and telling them, okay, this might not be the right place to do this. Let's wait and let's do it here in this match. And they get it and they understand. They're coachable, right? Same thing with Sammy Guevara. You know, all of us Texas boys, the Sons of Texas, is a pretty cool name, right? And it's that's our legacy, our Texas legacy. These boys together, you know, and I love it.
Yeah. You know, you're working with some of these young guys, like you mentioned, the Von Erichs and Sammy. How does has there been a difference or an evolution in laying out a match compared to, you know, you're working with your Terry Funk and your Ricky Steamboat compared to Sammy and the Von Erichs and so many other young guys? Do you notice a difference there?
Absolutely. Back in the day, I was told to keep my mouth shut. My dad brought me in and he said, listen, you just listen to the vets. They know what they're doing. And back then, everybody could work. They knew what they were doing, and they guided me to where I'm at. They were my teachers, and I kept my mouth shut. These days, it's not like that so much. I wish it was. I wish they would go out into the ring and feel the crowd instead of having some preset move set that they're wanting to do. Because some towns, like you said earlier, it's not going to work. Down south, it might work, right? So you got to be able to flip it, you know, when the time comes, by listening and taking moments in between your move sets. That is going to get you over as a babyface or as a heel, and people are not going to turn the channel because they want more of it.
Yeah. You know, there's a lot of wrestlers of your generation or older who say it's almost become like a meme at this point or something. That they say, you know, those boys need to slow it down, and, you know, compared to, I guess, what you see sometimes where it's just nonstop moves and action. Do you think there's a middle ground there, or where do you lean on there?
I lean very heavily on slow down, because let's say your match is 15 minutes, right? I'm not going to put 15 minutes worth of stuff in a match. I'm going to put about 9. And you take your time with it, and you build it. It's like a staircase or a ladder. You're walking up the ladder. You're walking up the stairs. You get them to where they need to be at the end of the match. They're all on their feet. But there's moments in between the moves that you do, right? When you don't have those moments, it's just this. It's 100,000 miles an hour with no rhyme, no reason. I'm a storyteller. I like to get them involved, the fans. I like to make them feel something. It's very important to make fans feel. so that they don't turn the channel. That is the number one goal. That's our audience at home.
Yeah, one of my favorite matches, it was you and Cody against Seth and Roman in 2013, and all I really mostly what I remember of that match is you and Cody and your dad coming out, and then your dad hitting that bionic elbow, and then
Dean, yeah.
and then Cody hitting that crossroads. Seth just amazing bump for it.
Oh yeah,
and
probably
then,
the best ever.
Yeah, and then you and Cody giving that big hug, embracing after the match. It was just, it's one of the few matches that give me like chills afterwards.
Yes, and we went on, we're like 2 months on the road, overseas, everywhere, just having the same kind of match every single night, 25 minutes, amazing. Those guys are so talented. Seth has got such a great mind on him for the business, and being there with your brother and your dad, you can't top that. It's nothing more special.
Yeah, I just watched last night. I don't know if you heard of this account called WWE Vault. They just uploaded Dusty Rhodes' last match. It was like an FCW house show or something. You and Cody and
yeah, that's a first and only time.
Yeah. Did you know going in that was going to be Dusty's last match?
You kind of figure it because Dad was getting old. His knees were banged up. I didn't see him doing anything significant anymore. Except maybe managing or whatever he wanted to do. He'd earned that.
Okay.
That was a very special night, though.
Sure.
Looking back at it, maybe that night I wasn't thinking how special it was, but you look back on something like that, the first and only time both his boys and Dad together in a ring it's crazy.
Yeah. Is there a match you can think of or that you look back on where in your career, like early on in your career, where you think that's where you really started putting the pieces together, or like started to get it?
Lots of matches. Rick Rude, Arn Anderson, Bobby Eaton, Ricky Steamboat, me and Barry Windham. So many matches. Vader and myself. Just Steve Austin. Like, we tore up some towns, man, just because we were both young and very hungry for the business, and they gave us free rein to just go out there and experiment, to try new things, and we'd go 20, 25 minutes every single night. We were in shape and hungry and wanting more, and some of the talent in the back couldn't understand that. And we'd be out bleeding in front of, a sold-out carnival bot show or something. There's not really wrestling fans, right? They're just there for the carnival, but just, shocking and awing these kids, you're right? It's like so hungry for it. So me and Austin really probably had some of the best matches I've ever had in my life. Yeah. Early on.
And just, looking at this last stage of your career, is there anything that comes to mind that you want to accomplish before you hang your boots up? Anything you feel that's been unfulfilled?
There's one thing that every wrestler, if they don't want this when they get into the business, they don't belong in the business, and that's to become world heavyweight champion. That is the one thing that is missing. I've won many, many titles from both companies, and all kinds of companies across the world. But winning the world heavyweight title puts a feather in your cap, so to speak. I'm 55. Is it too late? I don't think so. Now, I have 2 belts right now. Dustin 2 belts. Here I am with the Ring of Honor tag team titles and the 6-man world tag team titles. And it happened this year at 55. And I'm just like, wow, the sky's the limit. It is possible. So I think when you get into the wrestling industry, that should be your number one goal. Of course, you're going to make a lot of money with that. You're going to make a lot of money, period, anyways, getting into the wrestling industry. And it's great. You get to take care of your family. You don't have to worry about things, man. But it's an ever-evolving business, and you got to be able to change on the fly and continue your rise or wherever you're going and have that end goal. I don't see an end in sight for me just quite yet, right? And Sting was a big inspiration for that because I was a huge fan of his when he was there, when I met him the first time. Started painting my face because of Sting. And to watch him go till he was 60 or 62 years old was amazing, and it's very inspirational. So it gives me some hope that I can still go a little bit longer.
Yeah. Speaking of Sting, he had that amazing retirement match in February, and it's something. I don't know if that's necessarily something we'd see in WWE. Does that give you seeing that? Did that give you any kind of like assurance that your career is going to be ended properly or anything?
Absolutely, 110%. And Tony Khan is one of the greatest bosses I've ever worked for. Very different than the other company, right? AEW is a very special place, and yeah, we are growing. It's only 5 years in the business. We're doing some amazing stuff. We have some amazing talent and a large roster, right? And just having a relationship with Tony, it means a lot, right? Because the other place, it's not like that. It's very different. You're walking on eggshells. I don't know if it's that way anymore, but that's part of the reason I left there, because my passion left me, right? Until I reignited it here for our first Double or Nothing. So I'm an OG here, man. I've been here since the creation and love it, and I don't see myself stepping away.
One other thing I was watching last night, I was watching the King of the Road match, and a lot of my friends are curious. Did you know if there was anything planned or what was next for you in WCW had you not been fired after that match?
No, I didn't. I didn't know of any plans going forward. I think this was the blow-off match, and we pre-taped this, But Hogan was coming in, right? And me, Mike Graham, and Barry Dorso, the three of us, got fired, and that opened up some money for. That's all I can think. It was the reason. But they fired me because I bled. And the thing about it is, I called them and asked them, am I able to do this? And they said yes. So, whatever. It's water under the bridge. I mean, I went back there and they made up for it, several years later. And it's one of the infamous matches of my career, but it was actually really good if the unedited version. It was still like 10 or 15 more minutes. Very cool. It's a first, helicopter over you. You're in a cage in a flatbed truck driving in the North Georgia mountains, 2 cars beside you filming everything. And it's just, it was a cool match. It's made history.
Sure. And you got a training school in Austin right now.
I do. Rhodes Wrestling Academy.
Yeah. How does that, how do you feel about, how do you feel as a trainer? Is this something you could see yourself doing for long after retirement?
So I've always wanted to open up a wrestling school, never had time. I have had time with this company, and I bit the bullet, went all in, bought a couple of nice rings, our AEW rings to be exact. Nice facility, very clean, and I'm teaching them the way I was taught. And I think there's a lot of schools out there, and there's good trainers and there's some bad trainers that would just want to take your money. I actually like teaching. And it really happened like 3.5, 4 years ago where I said, you know what, it's time. And we're doing great. We have our first show tomorrow night, Texas Fall Fury in Leander, Texas, and I'm just looking forward to it.
Do you wrestle on those shows too, or are you just?
No,
okay.
This isn't about me. These are about the students. I think that's the payoff for me to watch them. I might make an appearance or something like that, but it's about them, and their brands and building them up, and me giving them a platform to do so.
Gotcha. And there's been a lot of news lately about this WWE ID system where they've been, sort of signing these indie guys, kind of in a way.
Yeah.
Is that? Have they reached out to you about your school at all, or is that
No.
something would you be open to something like that?
I don't think through WWE because I'm here, and I think that's probably the reason they haven't reached out, right? Because I'm contracted with All Elite Wrestling. I would love for Tony to do that with us, where we have a little, whatever you would call it, type thing. That would be kind of cool for some of our schools, especially me, since I'm like one of the originals here. Because we got Texas Live tonight at 6 p.m.
That's right. Yeah.
It's a pre-sale for All In.
What are y'all doing there?
Well, we have Abaddon there. We have Jeff Jarrett. We have Satnam Singh, who played for the Mavericks. We have Sammy Guevara. We have Athena and myself. And it's going to be a pre-sale for All In for July 12th next year, at the Globe Life Field. It's going to be really cool. This is our first United States stadium show, right? The last 2 years we were in London for Wembley doing 80 and 60,000 people. It's very special. So I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm hoping that I have something really big on this pay-per-view. It should be very cool. Being from Texas, I'm sure Tony will make that happen.
What do you think? Why Dallas for AEW's first stadium show? Do you think?
Why not? It's a historic sports town. Dallas Cowboys, Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks. Wrestling always does good here, right? Anywhere in Texas you go, wrestling is they love their pro wrestling. Even if they know it's scripted, even if they know it's, whatever, they love to come and we love to entertain them. Some of my favorite memories are from Texas because they get loud and they feed us so much energy, man, and it's like nonstop. They don't get tired. And a lot of towns do, they're yelling so much, but they're so passionate about wrestling, man. It's even going back to Texas Stadium and being in there with 100,000 people was very special. But, I think the baseball field, Texas Rangers, man, it's going to be cool.